time they were here. They were doing the ceremony in the hall. And then the lady came up, was a good friend of mine from the Burrard First Nation. She came and said that my dad said to let me know that your ancestors are all here waiting for you. And I told her, I said, well, I know that is because we're here having a memorial to them Saturday in our longhouse. And they're waiting to give you something. And I said, yeah, I know. That's when my family had the hereditary chieftainship thing and that ceremony. And that's why they were all here waiting.
I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
Wisdom, aren't you?
I'm saying that when you bring someone to speak, the key message about the one of the elders. So you come here and you ask me to come into your community and ask to be a speaker. I only let you know so much. Because if I tell you everything, you'll never want me back.
It's discriminating. It's you can't treat them. I would say that. Okay. Thank you. Seeing that it's 7:00 p.m., I am calling this regular meeting of council to order on May the 7th, 2024. And we're honored to gather on the traditional territories of the Squamish Nation. First, we need to approve the agenda, and then we have some minutes to approve, and then we've got a delegation here. So looking to approve the agenda, moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? The motion carries. And we have two sets of minutes to adopt, May 7th, 2024 and April 23rd, 2024. I need a motion to, I'll look for a motion to adopt both those. I see Councillor DeAndretti moving to adopt both sets of minutes, seconded by Councillor Kroll. Any discussion? All those in favor? The motion carries. And now we're very honored to have Chief Gary Feschuk from the Shishal Nation here. He's also the co-chair of the Swiya Reconciliation Movement and Siaya. Okay, well, this is why this is my first presentation from so I think you corrected me years ago on the pronunciation of Chatlach.
Yeah.
I hope I have it right now. Yeah. So this is an update. The council did hear about the movement Siaya. I've got to say it a few times, I think, to get it right. And in I think 2 years ago, the previous council, and now we've got an update. So welcome, Chief Feschuk. It's very timely because I also want to recognize from the town the day of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls that happened 2 days ago. That we've been commemorating with people are commemorating in our town with red dresses, and that'll probably be a part of the update. And
They had a march in Sechelt on Sunday.
yeah,
A walk, I mean.
so go ahead, Chief Feschuk.
Thank you. Itaquile at Messiah, Augusta, Hocknuck, and Squeeze. I just want to thank you for allowing me to come and speak tonight. I'm actually honored to become before your council. I come on behalf of Siaya with some news and an invitation. Before I start, we have a gift to you, to give to you with the invitation, and I'll get them. It's a gift, and it also has a saying on there. It also This is what the CIA Days is, the saying is what CIA Days is moving this year. And you can read out the message.
The message is, we can't change what happened, but we can change the way we see.
I just wanted to thank you again. I come on behalf of CIA to invite reps from the council to come to a few events that are going to be happening in Seashalt. The first one is on May 29th at 3 p.m. We're only asking for a couple of reps to come. And then the second one is on May 30th at 3 o'clock, this day after. And it'll be behind the House of Clans. And then June 22nd is the unveiling of the totem pole. And that's open to everybody to come. We're inviting the whole council to come and stand with us and walk with us. The totem pole is now being fitted in Roberts Creek for the bottom to when it's erected. We're going to do a ceremony on the 29th, and it's a ceremony that one of our elders gave us permission to use. But before we got permission from her, just before we're going to go have a meeting with her, she passed away. And so I got to spoke to her daughter, and her daughter said she would be honored to have their family ceremony be done on the totem. It's an awakening ceremony. So we're going to do a ceremony to awaken the pole. And then on the 30th, we're going to have the sacred mask ceremony. And if you can send a couple reps, we'd be honored. And if you are invited to come to this event, because not many people get to see this mask ceremony. And if you do get to see it, you are very blessed. And there's only one condition that we have, that there's no recordings and no pictures. That's how sacred that mask ceremony is. And they're going to put a blessing on the pole before we erect it. And we'll be unveiling it on the 23rd of June. And then on June the 8th, we're inviting your reps to come to our longhouse. We're going to be honoring all the survivors from the residential school over the last, and this is why I wanted to thank you and honor our local governments. This is the third one I've gone to now, and I have the SCRD on Thursday. Because it's the whole Sunshine Coast and the local governments, industry, and different groups who have actually funded to help CIA make regalia for all of our survivors. And we're going to stand them up on June the 8th in our longhouse, and we're going to give them their identity back was stolen from them from the residential school. And it's going to be a powerful ceremony for and I just wanted to thank everybody again. I'm very honored and touched that so many people have reached out to us and are walking with us now. The last walk we had on September 30th, we had 4,000 people in our walk. And there will be a feast in our community hall after the 22nd, and same on the 8th, there'll be a feast in our longhouse. It's one of our traditions that nobody goes home hungry when we invite you to an event. I just wanted to say that, what happened in those schools, that's why I gifted you that feather, and then the meaning on there is that we can't change what happened to our children in those schools, but we can change the way people see after we bring awareness. CIA brings awareness to everybody what happened in those schools, but we bring awareness with no shame, no blame, and no pointing fingers at anybody. We just wanted people to be aware of what happened in those schools to make sure it never happens again. It's so sad because I just lost my aunt and uncle 2 months apart, the last two children of my granny and grandpa. So they were actually residents in the school in Seashalt, and the stories that they told me are just horrific, what happened to them in those schools. And my wife is a survivor from the residential school. And I know she doesn't like coming to these events because I don't want to open up her trauma. I don't want her to have to relive that, but I'm going to share a story with her. Her mom was taken away from her village, and one day just a boat showed up, and nobody in the village knew they were there, knew that boat came in, and all the kids were out playing, and they gathered all the kids, put them on that boat, and brought them to the residential school in Alert Bay, and none of the people in the village even knew their children were gone. And that's the last time her mom got to see seeing her mother, because she never ever came. Her mother passed away before she was able to come out of that school, and her only memory she had of her mom is that she had short hair. And the reason why we bring awareness is that because I want to thank you for walking with us and reconciling Canada's darkest chapter in the history of Canada. And with all these truths rising to the surface now, I think the truths have to be told before we can have true reconciliation. And the reason why I'm bringing it out is that we have to make sure it never happens again, and we should never forget what Canada and the churches did to the most of our vulnerable people, our innocent children. They're all between the ages of 5 and 8 when they're taken away from their families. And if you didn't allow your children to go, then the police jailed the parents. I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to bring that out because I'm not here to shame you or anything. I just want you to invite you to make sure that we all start walking together to show our survivors that yes, we are going to hold you up now and walk with you as we start our wellness journey in our community. And there is a big wave of change happening in our community. After we unveil a pole, our children are going to be the first ones to dance on the same property where they tried to kill our culture. The same area where they're going to dance is where all the people from the churches gathered our regalia, gathered our masks, gathered our drums, gathered our rattles, gathered our hats, put them in a big pile, and burnt them right in front of our people. And that's how they try to kill our culture, but it's coming back strong now. It's only been sleeping. And our children are going to show that we have a strong future. Thank you. I just wanted to come and say that to you today, and I really want to thank you and honor you for standing with us and us being the voice of people who don't have a voice yet and who are still trying to heal. Thank you. And I can answer any questions if you want.
Thank you, Chief Feschuk. Are there questions from council? I'll just say on behalf of council, again, we're extremely honored to have you here and to accept your invitation to these events and accept your invitation to be part of the work that you're proceeding with in reconciliation. And thank you very much for this gift as well.
Yeah, and also I wanted to let you know on the 23rd, is it the 23rd or 22nd? We have Echo coming.
22nd for Echo and 23rd for the poll.
The 22nd is for, we're having an event in our community hall as part of CIA Days, where we're having Echo Alec come, and she's going to show her film Awakening, and then she's going to do a short workshop, and then she's going to perform for the community, her and Catherine Denham. And then on the 23rd, we're having Chief Robert Joseph from Alert Bay. He's coming to do a book reading. He did a book based on reconciliation, and he was instrumental in helping form the 94 Calls to Action and the Truth and Reconciliation. And he was instrumental in having the first walk in Vancouver, where he thought he was going to get 2,000 people. He ended up with 50,000 people that day.
Well, that's exciting. Yeah.
And those events are open to the public because the CIA is paying for them so that the public can come and join us. And he'll be there to read his book and hopefully sell some books to people.
Well, I bought it only a few weeks ago, so I'll bring one. I'll bring a copy to get it signed, though. Yeah, that's great that Robert Joseph is coming and Echo Alec as well. I remember Echo Alec when she was a student, and I was a school trustee, and seeing the great work she was doing. And
she does a lot of performances on reconciliation. She's going to do one of her performances on that day, along with Catherine Denham, Nancy Denham's daughter, who's going to perform her loon dance for everybody. It's a powerful dance.
Well, I've been taking down the list of these dates, and we'll ensure to send representatives And we'll be honored to be there and participate.
And if there's anybody around Seashell during that week of June 21st to July 1st, we're having 2 bannock days where our bannock makers are going to sell their bannock to the whole Sunshine Coast.
We'll be there. Thank you.
Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I just add to what Gary's saying that I will send you out a formal invitation to Chief and Council with all of the dates, because all of us are kind of getting some of them mixed up, and sometimes the performances change a bit, so you'll get the final with an invitation and kind of some guidelines to participate. And I also want to say that the town of Gibsons, the people of Gibsons are tremendously supportive. A lot of our volunteers come from Gibsons. A lot of participants to our events come from Gibsons. Different organizations in Gibsons sponsor events like the museum, the library. Catholic Church did a blanket exercise. So and the school is very involved. So I think what Gary's describing is this whole Sunshine Coast initiative. And it's actually getting attention across Canada from different media outlets. But recently we had a request from a researcher in University back east saying that this way of celebrating Canada Day is unique in Canada and wants to do research on it. So the work of people in our SWIA is getting recognized, and I just echo with Gary, we really appreciate the support of the people of Gibsons and you, the town. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I've observed that too. I didn't make it to this most recent march, but I did make it to the Day of Mourning march, and everywhere I looked, there were people I knew from Gibsons. So it was a strong showing.
And also I wanted to send out just a request if Gibsons wants to do anything during CIA days, maybe you can work with CIA if you want to plan something in Gibsons. So we're done.
Yeah, thank you.
Enjoy your meeting.
Thank you. Oh, we will. You're lucky to be done with these. I actually wanted to amend the agenda. Well, haven't checked with staff about this, but I think it's, just reviewing our agenda today, I saw 7.1 and 7.2, which are regarding contracts for capital. Usually like to just get these done early in the meeting, let people go and get the money out there to get these projects started and not potentially delay it any minute longer. So because we didn't amend it, could I just get it in the amendment to the agenda? Could I just get a motion to move 7.1 up and 7.2 to now on the agenda to this point? Thank you, Councillor Kroll. Seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? That motion carries. So 7.1 is from the Director of Finance about municipal security issuing resolution for loan authorization bylaw. And that's pages 55 and 56. And we have a recommendation regarding this motion to approve borrowing from the MFA. Would you like to introduce this? I think it's pretty straightforward, but I'll look to our Director of Finance to introduce this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so this is, relates to the municipal security issuing resolution, and this relates to locking in the long-term debt for the Zone 3 Aquifer Expansion Project. It's been a multi-year project. that's now complete. And the town needs to pass a municipal security issuing resolution in order for the regional district to include our long-term debt into the fall issue for the MFA. And this one is the debt servicing for this one, even though it's been a long-term project, the debt servicing has been reflected in the long-term financial plan, and I'll be updating it to reflect the current rate, financial rate, once it's been determined. I've been watching the MFA indicative long-term rates like a hawk, and it's slowly going down, and I hope by September, when this locks in, it'll be down even further, so. And so the two recommendations are in the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from councillors? Councillor Lumley, you don't have any questions about interest rates? Oh. One of your favorite topics. Yeah. Okay. He watches it like a hawk, too. All right, Councillor Kroll.
I was just going to move the recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor? The motion carries. And secondly, we have 7.2, which is our from our capital projects coordinator, who now has a real nameplate. Congratulations on that. And yeah, this is a project I think we're familiar with regarding Pebbles Beach, and I'll just look to our project coordinator to introduce it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just to summarize the report, this contract award is for the replacement of the stairs and stabilization of the slope at Pebbles Beach. As you are aware, the access down to Pebbles Beach has been closed to the public for a couple of years now due to the stability concerns along the slope. So to address this, town staff posted a request for proposal publicly and received 4 proposals. The project team evaluated all of these proposals for best overall value. And after the evaluation, 2 of the proposals stood out and were ranked higher than the others, with a proposal submitted from SFEMI Construction being ranked top and followed closely behind a proposal from NB Contracting being ranked second. After the exact bid prices were revealed, it was noted that the bid price from SFEMI Construction exceeded our current budget and would require approximately $60,000 in additional funds, whereas the bid price from NB Contracting was lower and would fit in with the current approved budget. The project team then reevaluated both of these proposals and determined that the slight difference in the initial scoring would not justify exceeding the budget, and the contract should be awarded to NB. It was also taken into account that NB is a local contractor where town staff are aware of them and very familiar with their quality of work. So to conclude, staff recommends this contract be awarded to NB Contracting as stated in option 1 in the report. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that report and the explanation of the rationale. It's appreciated. It's always good to hear and good for the community to hear how staff deliberates over these choices. I'm looking to council to see if there are any questions. Any motions moving the recommendation?
I move the recommendation in option 1.
Okay, that's moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor? The motion carries. Thank you. It'll be great to get those steps fixed. I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. Now going back to bylaws, so that's 5.1. We have 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, and 5.5. Actually, they're all to be adopted, aren't they? So because they're all the motions, yeah, from 5.1 to 5.9 are up for adoption. So we could move them all as a block. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion on any of these? No. All those in favor? The motion carries. And 5.10 is a zoning amendment bylaw to implement Bill 44, small-scale multi-unit housing. And I'll look to our Director of Planning to introduce this one.
Thank you, Mayor. So this report brings forward a zoning amendment to allow secondary suites on one property in Gibsons, and that's Block 7, the Gospel Rock property. The province brought forward the housing statutes, and Bill 44 requires small-scale multi-unit housing to be implemented across BC in a number of municipalities. Depending on the municipality and the population, there's different rules. But for Gibsons right now, we have to allow secondary suites or accessory dwelling units on all properties. And we're pretty lucky because we already do. For most properties, the only property that doesn't allow it was Block 7. So this bylaw brings forward the amendment, and it's mandated to have this in place by June 30th, 2024. So that's why it came up suddenly. So this report is to get 3 readings for the bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you. So there are options on page 4 of the staff report, I see, but the recommendation is 3 readings of the bylaw, which this is such a large document this month. I'm having trouble with it online here. But I've got it open now. So yeah, option 1 is to give the bylaw 3 readings. That's moved by Councillor Thompson? Yeah, okay, seconded by Councillor Kroll. And is there any discussion of this or any questions? It's very, very straightforward, and I appreciate that we're moving ahead with this. I think it's a good move rather than delaying it. And it's also worth noting that we have our official community plan update happening in the next month or in the next year. So that gives us an opportunity to implement other elements of the housing legislation that's been introduced. And we're also in a great spot there because we're just under 5,000, and we know we're going to go over 5,000, so we can plan for that. But we're not rushed to implement a lot of the changes that are in that legislation for communities over 5,000 quite yet. So we have that motion on the table for 3 readings. All those in favor? The motion carries. And now we are on to committee reports. We have our Committee of the Whole minutes for information on pages 51 to 53. And then we have items 6.1.2 and item 6.1.3. Now, I thought probably item 6.1.3 is a little more straightforward to just ask staff. I want to look at this kind of as a whole, like was done at Committee of the Whole, just to ask staff to prepare the OCP and zoning amendment bylaws for lots A and C. So I'm wondering if we could look at that first, if that makes sense to people. Councillor D'Andrade? You're on mute.
Sorry about that. I would like to, I think someone has, okay.
We're looking at 6.1.3 first, the OCP and zoning amendment, just to get those bylaws started.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, what I would like to is amend to say, and that the OCP amendment and zoning bylaw be brought forward to council only after DPA 1, 2, and 9 have been completed and approved by council. I think this project is massive and there are implications. We have 3 updates and we have been waiting for this update for a while, and I think it's very important that we consider the updates before this comes to council. So I hope.
Councillor Andrade, I think I have to stop you there because I think that amendment is out of order. I'll look to our staff, but in my view, that would be discriminatory for the rationale for that, to say this one development, we're waiting for the 3 DPAs, but we haven't done it for any other developments while we're waiting for the DPAs. I feel we need a better rationale to justify doing it for one development, but not others.
Mayor, if I may say, this is a massive development. This is not one small building, one house. This is 4 buildings, and there's possible impact on Charmant Creek, which is being restored. So there's a lot of implications.
The DPAs I know are also on our upcoming agendas, at least 2 of them. So I think it may not be in order because it's moot. By the time this application reaches a DPA point, those DPAs will have come to council, I believe. But I'll look to our staff to see if that would be the case.
Thank you, Mayor. So this property is not within DPA number 1, which is the geotechnically hazardous development permit area. It's quite far out of it, and it doesn't look like it would be included in it because it's not a very steep slope. So there wouldn't be any changes for DPA 1. It is also outside of the current development permit area number 2. With the changes, it might touch some of the corners of the property. The new development permit area might touch some of the corners of the property. And if that's, if the interest is to understand the environmental impacts, that could be a report that could be considered as part of the rezoning and OCP amendment process. And then in terms of DPA 9, the development permit area up there is to prevent contamination of the aquifer. And the aquitard is very thick in that area in Upper Gibson, so we could also get a report done in advance, but typically multifamily residential developments don't need DPA 9 up in Upper Gibsons. It's the commercial or the industrial uses that trigger that. But these reports could be requested as part of the OCP amendment.
Okay, so an amendment to request reports. I just want to make sure because I don't think, clearly the DPA 1 part of the amendment isn't in order if this isn't even, I just want to kind of find what we can actually even consider here. And I know council might have opinions on it too, but yeah. Go ahead, Councillor Lumley.
Well, back to the first point that if the DPA, if they don't apply, then I don't understand why you'd even waste your time doing the report. I certainly wouldn't want the applicant to start paying for reports that, or doing things that like are just coming out of the blue from council. Like if they're not in the areas.
I think we're debating the motion already, so I just want to make sure we've got
Sure.
I need to make sure we have a motion, an amendment that's actually in order. So I'm seeking staff's help to.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. So council can ask for more information if you need more information as part of the decision for the OCP and zoning bylaw. And in this case, if the information that the councillor is seeking is under DPA 1, 2, and 9, those reports could be requested. Does that help?
Councillor DeAndretti, does that help?
Mayor, I think my concern is not, it's like the director of planning explained, the DPA2 may change some border boundaries. And even because this is a part of drainage, so even though the aqueduct is thick enough, but there could be implications for drainage, right? We know.
So I don't want to get into, I really want to figure out what kind of amendment we can make here and not get into the debate yet.
Okay. So what
I
I would
mean,
like is that the DPAs, the updated DPAs are already in place before we approve, because at least we have the assurance that whatever study will be done under the
Okay.
new DPAs.
so I think Councillor DeAndretti is suggesting something other than what staff is suggesting, which is that those DPAs that are in the process of being revised be finished first before we even move ahead with first reading.
Exactly. So
Okay.
we are aware of what the implications could be.
Okay. So I'll accept that. We're hearing the rationale. That's the motion or the amendment, the proposed amendment. We need a motion, actually, so I'd like to just see if, we don't have a seconder for that at this point. I'll give you an opportunity to put it forward again, Councillor DeAndretti, but could I get a motion for 6.1.3, the recommendation in front of us, if anyone's interested? Councillor Kroll's moving that, seconded by Councillor Lumley. And now Councillor DeAndretti wants to propose an amendment,
Yes.
which we've heard, which is that
Which is that this current proposal, the OCP amendment only be brought forward to council once the updates have been completed.
so those are the updates to DPA 1, 2, and 9.
Yeah, and 9.
Yeah. So it might be good to discuss this as council, but I'm not sure we have a seconder on this. Councillor Kroll.
With respect to discussion, with respect to the amendment that Councillor Dendretti's proposing.
We do need a seconder, and we can second it for discussion. I think that would probably be a good thing to. So I'm going to second it for discussion. And go ahead, Councillor Kroll.
Okay. To start off, I agree with your initial statement that we're putting something. We have a proposal to prepare the OCP and zoning amendment bylaws with the current rules we have in place. We know the DPAs are being updated and amended and revised. Prior to the developer getting a building permit, I'm assuming we would have the DPAs in place, and anything that was reflected in these new DPAs would come into play when the developer applied for his building permit. So I think to amend this at this point is just, as you suggested in your opening statement, putting a roadblock on the process and potentially slowing it down. So, with what has to be done work-wise on all parties before we got to a building permit, I'm going to rely on staff that these development permits will be in place and will reflect when the developer applies for his building permit, so I can't support the motion.
Yeah, I don't even necessarily see it as slowing down the entire process, because at some point, these DPAs do need to be considered. But I get the impression that the scheduling is happening, that they're going to be coming up by, in the coming weeks. I hope. We need to debate this motion. I'm sorry. Sorry, Mr. Longman, we've got a motion that we have to debate. Councillor Lumley.
I don't, through the mayor, I find it hard to believe that if any of these reports, any of these come forward during any sort of process of any development, you wouldn't just go, oh, too late, you know? Hey, this is going to contaminate a creek. You go, ha, good thing he got his application in before these reports came in. Like, I mean, am I naive to think that if one of the DP 1 or 2 or 9 came through and you just went, oh, wait, these are going to affect, wouldn't that be brought forward at that time? Or like, you know, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around the process, I guess, like, or would you just say, let it roll? Like, I understand what Councillor DeAndre is asking for, but I also agree with Councillor Kroll in the fact that, you know, if it comes up, it comes up. And we may have to alter things in the future. I mean, but in the meantime, why not just let things, like, I agree with him, like let the process go forward. Start preparing these things. You know, it takes time.
There's a lot more to be considered on the project. Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, I agree with that same question as what Councillor Lumley is saying. So we're moving along those lines. Let's be here and now.
And I'll look to Councillor Andrade before we close up debate. This is just an amendment, so I don't want to spend all night on it.
Yeah, I think it's important that council understands that the reason, especially DPA 2 is being updated, is because there's a need to look at the old update and revise based on new knowledge and new circumstances. So this is a huge development, one of the biggest in town we will have. And it would impact, there would be possible impacts. And just to say, well, let it roll. If we have an update, if I had confidence that the DPA 2 were coming in the next month or two, yes, great, probably wouldn't be an issue. But to approve an OCP amendment before understanding when we have an update just coming very soon, I don't understand. I think this just gives more confidence to council. And if the updates are going to happen in the middle of the second quarter, as I believe it was stated, then it wouldn't be a problem. But if it doesn't, I think it can have a minimum. It's not going to be a big delay, but I think it's important.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Andrade. I just really want to clarify council's intent here and our whole organization's regard of importance for our development permit areas. And that's that the statement of let it roll was not, definitely, I did not interpret that as just rolling over our DPA process. That has to happen. That's our process. That has to happen in this process. It's just an order of operations here. And that usually it happens later in the process once we prepare the bylaws, which is all this motion is, the original motion. And once we consider a lot of other elements of this development, and the development permit area process is very intensive. It requires advice of professionals. It sometimes it requires a lot of going back and forth of different professionals to determine safety issues and environmental sensitivity issues, and that will happen with this project regardless. So I want to look to council for a vote on this amendment now. All those in favor of the amendment? All those opposed? That amendment's defeated. And we're back to the original motion now, which is the recommendation on our agenda, which is to prepare the OCP and zoning amendment bylaws for this project on lots A and C, Gibsons Way. That motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion on it? All those in favor? That motion, or all those opposed? Okay, Councillor DeAndrade is opposed. And that motion carries to prepare the bylaws. So this isn't even first reading yet. We'll there's a lot this is a long process, and as the developer knows for sure, I know they're familiar with long processes, so this will come to first reading at some point, and the development permit area part of the process will be further along than that too. Now we're going back to 6.1.2, which is development variance and a development permit for a 4-story mixed-use building with underground parking at 629 Mahon Road. So this is much further along in process in that it's just a request for a variance on this particular building, which is, council did discuss this at Committee of the Whole. I was able to listen to part of that discussion. Unfortunately, I was in transit. I will, yeah, I mean, we could, are there any questions on this? Upon, reflection since Committee of the Whole, or we could put forward the recommendation and go from there in terms of further discussion. Councillor Lumley? I'll put it forward, yeah. Okay, Councillor Lumley is moving the recommendation. Is there a seconder? Councillor Kroll seconds the recommendation, and I see Councillor DeAndrade.
Just want to confirm, are we talking about the 629 Mahon Road?
Yes.
Okay, so, yes, I have a question. And may I speak?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I think the reason I voted against that is not, I'm not against the building. I think it's a great building, but council had 2 previous requests for height variances, and in both cases, council asked for affordable housing and rental contributions, which is in order to address the most significant issue in Gibsons as identified in the housing needs assessment report, which is affordable housing and rental housing. For the 826 Gibsons Way, it was a 5.6 height, and council asked for rentals. The developer wasn't interested, so he didn't get the variance. The 835 Gibsons Way requested 8.5. Council negotiated 81 rental units for 20 years, 28 affordable rentals for 15 years, and a child care for 20 years. This current development is asking a variance of 3.5 meters, which is significant. With this variance, he will be able to build 10 extra units with greater views. These 10 units will be the most expensive units in the building. So my question is, why council wouldn't ask for any community affordable contribution to this developer, despite the housing crisis? Why council asked to other developers, but not this one in particular?
Well, I think it's more about this project. I mean, we're considering projects here. Let's be. I want to just direct council's attention to that. This is, I do really appreciate you bringing this up, Councillor DeAndrade, because it's an important discussion to have, I think it's something that we should explore as a council regarding consistency. It's very difficult dealing with variances, as I've brought up before from some of these previous projects, because we do have more of a prescribed way of dealing with formulas, even dealing with rezonings, where there can be CAC contributions and affordable housing contributions that are somewhat triggered automatically, whereas there's no script when it comes to variances. And as I've discussed many times too, when I was first on council, all the variances that came to us were like people asking, for a few feet on a property line to build a shed, or with their neighbor supporting it, and they were all pretty straightforward. But this term, all the variances are quite significant requests of involving height and adding units to developments. So it is something we need to consider and deliberate more and discuss. And it's a challenge because there isn't a prescribed way to do it. So I see Councillor Kroll, and Councillor Kroll's had the background of looking at this at the advisory design panel as well as the committee of the whole. So hopefully he'll have some insights.
Thank you, Mayor White. To Councillor Andretti's point, with the complex that she was referring to with the affordable rental is the key word there. They are rental units that was at 835 Gibsons Way. This is a condominium complex. They're 1 and 2 bedroom units. If we start layering on additional charges to the developer, he may be prepared to pay them, but it's going to affect the ultimate price of the units. And what we desperately need in this community are affordable units that people can buy into. The housing needs assessment said there's 1,100 homes in this community occupied by people like me, 1 person or 2 people in a 3 or 4 bedroom house, which is insane. But I have nowhere to go and I don't want to leave the community. So I think the developer here is offering potential entry-level housing, and anything that we do to layer on additional cost is only going to make these units less affordable. So, if it were a zoning, a big zoning change we were asking for, that was being asked for, that's one thing, but these are just variances. And I think the developer has a history in the community of building, affordable housing in areas where you're not going to get prime real estate prices with incredible views and waterfront. Perhaps the views offered by the upper floor in this project might give the developer a little better pricing, then I would trust that he would reflect the benefit he reaps off the top floor and spread it through the building and make some units more affordable. But I think it is designed and intended to meet what this community needs at the moment, affordable housing.
I have Councillor Lumley next, and I see Councillor DeAndrade's hand up, but maybe Councillor DeAndrade would be speaking for the second time, so Councillor Thompson has an opportunity to speak too. But I'll go to Councillor Lumley first.
Yeah, I think through the mayor, just a really short kind of like how this property fits in, like other than us creating things, because like you said, Mayor, the variance part, usually it's all about density, like the bump in density, right? So like sometimes I think, well, what does that mean? Like that means like, usually it's tied to zoning, right? You're going to rezone the property so I can have more units on the property. That I understand. But, I mean, maybe an explanation of what if you're not, like the variance, what if the variance doesn't increase the density? Then, maybe that's why it's not included. Like maybe a developer, like if a developer builds units that maybe they're 2 bedroom, maybe they're good sized units, and you only build so many of them, and then you want an extra floor, but it's not real density bump. So then, aren't we in a particular then we're just kind of making things up as we go? I think that's what you might have said, like as far as variances and so on and so forth. I just maybe clarify the fact that is there like a large density bump from this variance without rezoning?
That's a really good point and question, because I think that if there was a change in density, we'd be looking at more than a variance. So that's a very valid point on this. I'll look to staff to help clarify that.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a variance because it's not a change to use or density. The zoning bylaw, under the current C1 zone, there is no density limit, so it doesn't speak to density at all. So you can't change what's not in there. So they are getting more height, and with the extra height, they would get more units. So essentially, they are getting 10 more units, I think. Not sure how, is it 10? 10 10 in the top, in the extra floor.
I'll
Developer
give,
can
yeah, I'll let you finish and then give the developer a chance to.
Thank you.
I know
Thank you. But
he's
the
being very polite
alternative,
and patient.
the alternative would be to just excavate a little bit more for underground parking and sink the building. So I don't know if that answers the question. They're getting more units with more height, but there is no density provision in the bylaw to change.
I think that answers the question, and yeah, that this question has come up about how many units we'd actually be talking about here, and I think it's been speculated that it's 10. Maybe that was mentioned at the committee of the whole by the developer, but I just want to give the developer an opportunity to clarify that to help inform our debate. Yeah, go ahead, please.
I tagged the line here. Variances vary, right? So, that's, not all variances are alike. I mean, your last situation when some developers are funded in different ways and their ability to have units flow through to long-term rentals is different. Their ability to do that might not impact their ability to do the next project. If this building was tied into long-term rentals, we wouldn't have the liquid cash to be able to start phasing through the next development. That was a point that was also lost in the previous thing, is that these are phased developments. Once we get complete approvals, like even on this project, if we're successful tonight, then we're gonna have to go through building permit processes with our engineers and design teams. You're 6 to 8 months away there. That isn't even to say for lots A and C that are farther. So you have plenty of time to be moving forward with other things. So we could squeeze more units in on the lower floors. We'd have to max out some distances aside. We'd have to get redesigned and stuff like that. So I'm not confident we're gaining 10 full units. But I'll sort of go back to where I started at the committee of the whole the last week. In our last two developments on the coast, in Gibsons, 58% and 66% respectively of the units ended up in the long-term rental pool. So if this variance was denied, and we take a story off, 10 units are gonna go away, and 5, 6, 7 long-term rental units are gonna go away anyways. But this is just what's happening in the marketplace. So the community would win nothing. They would also lose out on 10 units at an average of 100 meters per unit times $180 in DCCs or something like that. So $180,000 in development cost charges are gonna go back to the community. The challenge with all of these things is to be able to, I appreciate the position. We all were able to afford building. I don't believe, humbly, I believe that we're doing as much for this project as anybody in this room to resolve these. We design developments in infill neighborhoods, other than one project in Lower Gibsons, that won't necessarily be able to target the affordable housing. This is as affordable as the market can provide housing to the community. If the building shrinks, all you're doing is shrinking the number of market affordable units that are gonna come to the marketplace. So I just worked on a few thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Is that enough?
Yeah, that's enough. I think mostly we wanted to clarify we don't, we do need to have a debate as a council, and mostly we need to clarify kind of what those units might look like. And we're hearing they might not quite be 10 depending on the design,
Have
but
to
yeah.
go back to the design team
Yeah.
to figure out that.
Yeah.
And contrarily, there will be no view. The height of this building is
Right,
probably
yeah,
40 to 50 feet lower than the tops of the trees in the neighborhood. There's gonna be zero.
That's a point that I was planning on making too, so we'll get there. Councillor Thompson, and then we'll go back to Councillor DeAndrade because Councillor Thompson hasn't had a chance to speak on this yet.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I do appreciate the point that Councillor DeAndrade is making. And then, I also appreciated the point made about density, because I think the challenge is the difficulty in that balance between consistency in the variances. So it's, there's a lot to consider. And looking at, an increase of 6 stories in a high traffic area, versus, this specific site with a height variance that's on a slope in in an area that I feel like it fits, and, doing some research and looking at MLS and seeing that, there's only one bedroom for sale in all of Gibsons. There's no studios, there's no live work spaces. I don't want to risk losing an opportunity to be able to have that advantage to the community for downsizing, for entry market into first housing purchases. So I do agree with Councillor DeAndrade, but I don't want to lose this opportunity for our community, and I feel like development investment is portable. I don't want to see us lose this.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson, and I'll go to Councillor DeAndrade and then Councillor Lumley.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for a reminder, 8 to 6 didn't increase density. Was just a variance request. So it's the same situation as this building. The only difference, he's asking a little bit more, right? The 8 to 6 asking for 5.6, and this current project is asking for 3.5. So the criteria is not being applied the same with the other developments. And I think this will even set a precedent, because why the two previous developments we asked for and not this one? The second thing, Mayor, we are not talking about denying the variance. What we are asking is, Mr. Longman, because council will be giving you the variance, could you agree to sell 3 of your units at 20%? 20%, I have been corrected, given the information you provided to me, Mayor, with BC Builds. So instead of 25, 20% affordable. So people who meet the criteria can purchase. So this is a win-win for everybody. And it would allow someone that may not be able to have all the money to buy a 1-bedroom, but they might not have the 500,000, but they have the 400 or whatever. They don't have 450, but they have 300, and they would be able to own. And then we can apply the same case in Whistler, that the price, it's capped. So the person sells will be always affordable. So what I don't understand is why there's no negotiation with this developer, but there has been negotiation with the other two, and they were all variances with not increasing density necessarily.
Okay, I will try to clarify some things there, just for context too. At the latest local government, the Lower Mainland Local Government Association, we are reminded at a BC Builds presentation that a target there is getting 20% of those, and those are subsidized projects, but 20% of those units being 20% below market. So that seems to be a reasonable target for that program. I don't know if that would equal, if we're looking at 10 units, that'd be 2, I think, not 3. But I also heard Councillor Kroll's comments earlier about and we have had, it's a challenging one, because we've struggled with this before as a council in the past, these kinds of models of having the discounted units. Sometimes they're depending on the market, I think, especially in the market 6 or 7 years ago. I recall they were really difficult to sell because they aren't that deeply discounted, and people would, especially when people have to qualify for mortgages in the first place, they tended to go for buying market units and not having that cap. It didn't seem to be appealing to the market. And secondly, another challenge with that model was needing the administration who administers these. Now, things have changed a bit, where maybe we could approach the Affordable Housing Society to do that, where they probably need some of their admin covered in order to do the work, but they didn't really exist back when this model was attempted before. But I do go back. I consider Councillor Kroll's earlier comments as well. I'm going to add them to the speakers list. he may say the same thing, but one was that another challenge with this kind of model is it does tend to change all the market rates, where you might have a development where, where the market rates have to rise in order to subsidize these subsidized rates. So you really don't necessarily, if that's, there's an argument economically that we might not actually get a lot in the long run. The other buyers would potentially have to pay for it. But I'll go to Councillor Lumley.
Through the mayor, and just on that, quickly on that point, it'll be made up somewhere else. So I don't think that works in a free market model. Like you say, they're being subsidized, those developments, right? And it won't work in free market for sure. But I think sometimes I rail on this because we lose the fact of, like, we can't force affordable housing. Like, we have to allow housing, and I know I want to take that affordable off it, but we have to remember is that the more units, the more long-term rentals. And the funny thing is, so there's two things, like, just the other day, because I know there's some units for sale in the Murray on School Road, and I know that Nova and Mike live in there, and I said, hey, hopefully you're not, they rent in there. They said, hopefully your unit's not for sale. And they said, no. They said who they rent from is a lady that bought 2 units. She lives in one and rents the other. So, and then the guy that was opposed, I think the only person opposed to this development, he's actually, he owns the unit someone else is renting because he lives in Lower Gibson somewhere else. So, I mean, the proof's in the pudding. Is it's like people in their own community will invest in their community and help with housing. So that's what I'm getting from all this. But I don't think, and you know what, I was in the very same spot. Like, I think my first term on council, I was like going, yeah, we got to make these guys do this. We got to make these, but it just doesn't work in the end. It's just, you have to let things, let the market, and the market start and take care of itself. I think we can agree to that. So anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Lumley, and I've got Councillor Kroll next.
Thank you, Mayor White. Just a correction to something Councillor Dendretti said with 826 Gibsons Way, which was the potential twin buildings at 6 stories plus a roof deck. Council ostensibly approved that height variance, but we requested that it include rental, and it was a developer's choice at this time not to provide rental, so he accordingly redesigned the project. And, that project now doesn't require a variance, but it is in fact going to have a much larger footprint on the ground. And, I think, to increase a building by 1 story and minimize the footprint of it to gain housing is a plus. Otherwise, we're going to, have single-story town border to border housing, and I don't think any of us want that. We're embarking on a tree canopy study, and if we don't allow buildings to go up, they're going to go out to meet the community housing need, and, we're going to lose all our green spaces.
Thank you, Councillor Kroll. I've got Councillor DeAndrade, and then I've been taking a big mess of notes here to maybe close things up and then have a vote.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mayor, thank you. I'm just like, in a way shocked, because I feel that is discriminatory that for some developers, yes, the variance, but for another developer, you don't. And frankly, the argument that has made here, it's even, in a way, all our strategic planning, everything we talk about it, all the needs is for affordable housing, the problem is affordable housing, rental. And then when we have an opportunity to ask a contribution from the developer, we are saying, no, we don't want to ask. The developer is saving by going up. He's gaining units and he's saving money with the parking. He's not having to excavate. So is it possible that council gets a contribution? Is a trade-off. We negotiated with other developers, and why we're not negotiating with this one? So this argument to say he's bringing small units, the development in 826 was also bringing small units. Why we didn't let him build? Why we didn't have the same process, the same thinking process? And now we are changing the process? I don't understand. It's the developer is gonna save a lot of money into the parking. So what is is it not feasible to provide 20%, the smallest 3 units, 20% market rental to benefit 3 people or even 6, depending if it's a couple? Why council doesn't choose to go there? And why is this discrimination?
Councillor DeAndrade, I strongly disagree. What I heard with some of those other processes, we talk about 835 Gibsons Way, I saw a tremendous amount of scrutiny put on that developer in terms of asking for a business plan and things like this, which probably wasn't necessary, but council did it anyway. And I think every development here is different. That's why, I mean, these are very different variances. And to talk about a process, like we've established a process, I don't think is accurate, because as I raised earlier, there is no process here when it comes to assessing and negotiating these variances. There's certainly no process to negotiate variances. They're typically supposed to come to council, and council says yes or no, is this reasonable or not? That's their very simple request, as I brought forward before. And I guess maybe it was easier in the term two terms ago, when they were all about kind of setbacks and property lines and things, and now we are looking at larger buildings for these. But it's not a negotiation process, and I guess the thing maybe I disagree the most with is just the notion that we negotiated with these developers. The 835, they brought we all know they brought forward all those plans right from the beginning with having a daycare. We didn't say go away and come back with a daycare. That was presented right from the beginning. The affordable units was presented right from the beginning. The fact that they were presenting all rentals was presented right from the beginning, and this was their model. That was their business model, and they had planned to go to CMHC to work on the rental arrangement right from the beginning, and our only negotiation was just holding them to it, making sure we when we agreed to the development, having an agreement, which of course they agreed to because they proposed it. Secondly, I'm disappointed we didn't have a negotiation with 826, because all we asked for was, let's have a discussion about. It was a very general request, as council's raised during this discussion, just to let's if we're going to consider this variance, we'd like to talk about rentals. It wasn't anything specific like the 2020 model we mentioned earlier or anything like that, and would have loved to have that discussion, but that developer, we didn't even get into a discussion about, okay, well, if these go out on the market, maybe 58 to 60% of them will become rentals. That might have been a compelling argument for council, but we didn't even get to have that conversation. Unfortunately, the developer just said, no, not interested, and I later heard that the developer kind of decided he'd preferred that earlier iteration of it without the variance in the first place. But the market goes back and forth too. I mean, that's another consideration here. I think it's hard to suggest that we have this set in stone process for these things, because not only do we not for variances, but things change as well. I mean, the market changes, the housing needs change, and my own perspective, as Councillor Lumley acknowledged, his perspective has changed over the years. We tried to negotiate with that first developer, and it didn't work, and I was disappointed with that, and I've reflected on that, and kind of I've often thought, like, how could we have done that differently to perhaps, was maybe it was a good thing, maybe I'll only know if it's a good thing when we actually see those built and see if they are rentals or not. We don't know that yet, but hopefully they are either way. So anyway, that's just to really underline the fact that all these developments are different. And there isn't a negotiation process that's built into them. And there were no negotiations with those previous two examples. I'd like a chance to address this too, this question myself, and that's one point I really want to make sure we're all clear on is that we're talking about, it sounds like maybe 8 to 10 units, maximum 10 units. So I did hear Councillor Thompson say, I agree completely. I want to see this project happen, but we are talking about like one floor here. I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. What we're considering, the variance is one floor. It's not the entire project, and I also support the entire project for sure, and I want to see that happen. But I think I'm hoping it will either way. I think it will either way with this variance or not. Our housing needs assessment is clear. We need more units like this, as has been stated by council. So I think any way to get 10 more units, dense units that are offering different options to our community than single-family housing, which we have a mass abundance of proportionately, is a good thing. This is an efficient way to get 10 more units because it is in a development that's already happening, is already large, and importantly, I don't quite see this being as a great view. There's trees. It's this also is definitely not in the same kind of area of town as those other two developments we're looking at, where there will be views of at least the mountains, if not down to the ocean too, in one case, at least one case. So I do see these as an opportunity for some more comparatively affordable, market affordable units. And it's stepped, it's lower too. So this is also a different kind of location where it's not, I don't think it's quite as obtrusive. And I mean, when we talk about the difference between these, Councillor D'Andrade, I heard you bring up shading as a massive concern with both of those previous developments, I think. It's not such a concern with this one. I think that's I'm not hearing it this time because of its location. It's not the, another floor here will probably not have a big impact on people's views driving along Gibsons Way or walking along Gibsons Way. It won't even be, it'll be about the same height as the building above it. So I see that as different as well. On the rentals, it is I've given this a lot of thought too, just the fact that, I mean, we're not talking about when we ask for more rentals, when we ask private owners and developers to create more rentals, they're still owning them. These are still private rentals. They're not subsidized. They're not rent controlled. And a model of those developers retaining ownership, to me, is it better to or worse to allow other people to own those units, buy those units, and then rent them out, as Councillor Lumley talked about? I think a lot of people might argue it might be better to have a diversity of ownership offering rentals if that's the market we're looking at right now. And Councillor Lumley alluded to people in the community working in the service industry who are renting from privately owned rentals in units, I should say, in other recent developments. And I know people like that too, people who are servers and people we desperately need in our community who are taking advantage of the fact that we actually have rentals in our community and some of these more dense offerings that we're getting built in the last few years. So this is another opportunity to add 10 units that won't be, I don't see as, often when we're asking for something, it's kind of this is an awkward one because sometimes when you ask, you kind of, a council may feel that it is entitled to some kind of contribution from a developer. It implies that we're losing something as a community. I don't think we're losing anything with this variance proposal. That's what I'm hearing from council too. And in fact, we're gaining some units that could very well help fill our housing needs. So that's my thoughts, and I'm hoping we can. I've heard from everybody on this. I don't know if we've got different. Anyone's changed their opinions, but Councillor DeAndrade, we'll let you speak one more time on this.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm really concerned with this approach because we've done before. And even though, Mayor, you said we did not negotiate, of course we did. The 835, they came with a proposal because they already knew that they wouldn't get the height without giving something back to the community. So we are talking about giving something back to the community. Yes, it is true. It's 10 more units. It's great. But we are in a housing crisis where people, even people who have decent jobs, are not able to buy anything. So if council use the approach of saying, okay, Mr. Long, we are giving you this variance, could you provide 3 units, 20% market price? That would help 3 people, 3 families, and that could never afford, but because it's 20% market price, they would be able to afford. And I really don't understand why in this particular case, council is mute. Oh no, it's gaining. Every time we have a building, of course we're gonna gain units, but why are we giving a variance in this case? It doesn't matter if it's a variance or a zoning amendment or CP amendment. In this case, he's not just trying to fix or build 1 unit because the lot has a different shape. No, he's taking advantage and getting 10 extra units because he's asking a height. And that's the point, and I don't understand why, and I'm really concerned with the future because...
Thanks, Councillor DeAndrade. I think we've heard these arguments before. I do want to get on. Do you have anything, if you have, I do want to give you the opportunity if you want to respond to anything someone else said, but we do need to, we've definitely heard you, and I think a lot of the rest of council has heard your arguments and tried to respond to them as well. We're trying to have a conversation here.
Market ownership is in the house on the document, right? The housing needs assessment, and we talked about and facilitating that. And this is an opportunity, and we are not. doing anything. We have the opportunity now to ask the developer to facilitate market ownership. And why we are not taking this approach? Why we are not even considering that?
This is market ownership, yeah. I mean, this is unquestionably meeting housing needs. The housing needs assessment has said we need more dense units like this. And really, what we're facing today is a question of do we want to add 10 that will meet our housing needs to a development or not? I don't actually sense, it's a challenge because that's really the question we're looking at. I don't think there isn't necessarily a lot of room to negotiate here and say, okay, but I want 10 units, but they've got to be this kind of unit. Like it's the developers, like we saw the first time. The developer could walk away and we get 0 units. And these are units that meet our housing needs. And I'll look to Councillor Kroll for a quick point here.
Thank you, Mayor White. The developer could quite easily just increase the footprint of the building, include those 10 units in the larger footprint, and we would have more land in the community covered. So, and there would be no need for the variance. So, the fact he's minimizing the footprint, providing the housing within a smaller footprint, I can only consider it a plus because, it just makes sense.
Yeah, thanks. And we're going to have a vote now, Councillor DeAndrade. I'm being asked here to move things on, and I accept that argument.
But Councillor Crowe raised a point. I would like just clarification with the planning, director of planning. My understanding is this building has already taken the maximum footprint.
Yeah, I don't think it's a relevant point. Like, I don't think that's relevant to the actual question we're looking at right now. It has no part of this motion to talk about expanding the footprint of the building. So I'm just going to put that aside right now. It's not part of our debate. So I'm looking for a vote on the actual motion, which is not a variance to expand the footprint. It's a variance to expand the height. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries with Councillor DeAndrade opposed. And next on the agenda, we have item 7.3, which is the form and character development permit and flood exemption for a mixed-use building at 456 to 458 Marine Drive. Thanks for joining us. I'll go to, now this is one we're very familiar with. We've talked a lot about before, but this is a new iteration of it that was in response to council's we asked them to go back and do these revisions. So this is what the developer has come up with in response. And I know Councillor Kroll's had a chance to see this new version at the ADP, and those minutes are excellent, helpful minutes. By the way, it's really great to see the conversation in those recordings of the ADP, and really helpful. So I'll go to staff now to introduce this.
Thank you. Mac, do you mind if I just do a quick presentation? I just want to show you some photos, so images. So this is the second time that you've seen this proposal, and as you can see, the property is located opposite Jack's Lane, and it's right next to the Bayview restaurant. So the top image is the original, the bottom image is the new proposal. So there's been a couple of different changes. In October last year, council requested the applicants reduce the height of the building, and they also denied the parking variance. And I requested that the applicants provide payment in lieu of providing that one space that they'd asked for. So the revised package has been provided. You can see that the building height has now been reduced, and it now conforms with the view protection sub-area D, which has a 4.5 meter max height from Marine Drive. The number of residential units has decreased from 9 units to 6 units now. They are offering to pay the $30,000 in lieu of one parking space. Exiting and access for all units has been simplified. So every unit in this building will now be accessed from an elevator. And then the parkade entry has been updated to ensure that pedestrians that are walking across the sidewalk are warned if any vehicles are approaching. As I was explaining, that you've got the view protection sub-area D, and this gives you kind of the building envelope. So it talks about that building height being 4.5 meters. Oh, here's my mouse coming here. 4.5 meters. And it also talks about a rear setback of 6 meters from the property line. Here is a section of the building. So as you can see, the blue line here is the property line. The red line is the outline of that view protection area. We have the proposed building setback is right here, and then this is the 6 meter setback from the view protection, and we also have a 15 meter flood setback from the natural boundary of the property as well. And this is where they're asking for a flood exemption so that they can be 3 meters from the property line. So that this is looking at essentially allowing the building to be 3 meters from the property line. Now this is the seawalk elevation. You can see that this has changed in that there is no 5th story anymore. You can also see that there is a flood level, construction level of 6 meters, so it's higher than the seawalk, and it's been elevated. So you can see just behind here, maybe if I go back once, here you can see that there's this elevation. So the 1st story is 6 meters higher than the seawalk. So there's 3 options for you to issue the development permit and authorize the flood exemption. There's a couple of conditions here. It talks about there's a 3 meter right of way for stormwater that goes through the property. We'll be asking that that be amended to allow for public pedestrian access, and then the flood exemption be authorized subject to specific site-specific modeling, confirming that 6 meter flood construction level and the registration of a covenant saving the town harmless from any hazards. I'm going to send it back to you.
I'll go to council for any questions on this. Councillor Lumley.
I don't know if I have a question, because well, I have some ideas. Can I, through the mayor, can I just express a couple of, like, as far as, what council has asked for and what the developer has actually accomplished? Can I ask,
Yeah.
Okay, because,
You can ask council questions too.
yeah, I just, the only issue I have with this now is the color on the palette of colors that's facing the water. And I actually wouldn't approve of this. And the reason I'm saying this is because, and we've talked about this many times, is it would be awesome from the water side if the town looked vibrant. And like so many other communities all over the world, this is what they do. Everything's not brown and gray. So that's the only thing. The other thing I was going to suggest to council and the mayor is to grant the variance for the parking and ask for a donation. I was thinking maybe $5,000 to the Affordable Housing Fund, or make a contribution to there. Here's the reason being, I'm thinking of this, is because these people came to council, and council asked them to go away and make these changes, and then they did. And I don't know, it's almost like a reward for the developer for actually like listening to council and actually, coming back with so many things that we've asked for. So anyway, those are my suggestions.
There is no parking variance up for consideration anymore. That was,
30,000 in lieu?
developers can pay 30,000 in lieu, so that's all been agreed to already. It's not up for,
Oh, we can't give it back to them?
no.
No. Bummer.
Councillor Kroll.
To Councillor Lumley's point, and if you look at the notes from the ADP, color was mentioned. It was also suggested that some marine architectural detailing be included, and there were a couple of references provided to them. I appreciate that, they did listen to us. They did, they've made a lot of changes to the building. The only thing I would like to add to this is they're combining two lots here. And traditionally with properties on the water, they have riparian rights for moorage. And because it's becoming a single lot, I would like to ensure that they only have one provision for moorage, and that be administered by their strata council, because we have an issue with moorage in the community. It is in an area where we've established a no-anchor zone to protect eelgrass, and suddenly, for 6 residences to suddenly think that they had riparian rights for moorage is a potential problem. There isn't the space there. So I would just like to add that one caveat to it.
I think, let's try to keep this to questions, right? Because that I can totally see phrased as a question, because that didn't even occur to me. There's no moorage there right now. And there's no discussion of it previously in this, so it didn't occur to me that it could possibly be that. So I'll just look to staff to answer.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. We do have our recreational water lease, so bylaw 1121, and it does talk about multifamily properties that are on the uphill side, and it talks about them only having one boy. So that would mean boy. There we go. So it would just mean that property would only be allowed to have one, and then the strata would have to manage how it's used. Does that? And
Okay,
so
it does default to one, which is what Councillor Kroll is looking for. Yeah, I've got Councillor DeAndrade and then Councillor Thompson for questions on this.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, although this proposal does not conform with the waterfront view protection setback by 3 meters, given the site limitations and the efforts that the developer has done, and the fact that half of the area only breach 1.5 meter basically, I will support the project, but I have the same concerns I was going to propose, because one thing that I feel that the ADP makes recommendations, but I don't feel necessarily that council necessarily follow up. It feels that it's up to the developer. So
I was going to get to that, Councillor DeAndrade. I'm just letting you speak first.
Sorry?
I'm sorry. I was going to get to that. I'm just letting you speak first. I just don't. I don't think it's fair to rule out that we're not looking at those, because we haven't all had a chance to get to that yet.
Okay, so I was going to suggest that all the recommendations from the ADP be part of the council's recommendation, because I agree with the color and the other issues.
Yeah, we're just kind of getting to questions right now, and that's, I defer to counselors first, but, I take it upon, as being, chairing these meetings, I do try to always look at the work that our ADP does and go over with staff whether those, if there's been discussions being had with the developer to implement some of those recommendations from the ADP, if they're things that, because sometimes there are things that council can't necessarily impose as conditions of approval. But if we can, I think we should be discussing that. So I would just like maybe staff to review those suggestions that the ADP had in their motion for us.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the ADP does have some recommendations, and there's 5 of them. Do you want me to read them out? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not long.
The first one is to secure the stairs from Marine Drive to the seawalk for public access, and that was one of the conditions that we had put in there. Encourage revisiting the frontage to make it less busy. I did have a conversation with the architect about this, and there was a rationale that having different roof alignments and pitches makes it look more interesting and more marine-like. We had a discussion about whether or not to continue those peaks, because you've got kind of a half peak there, but that would mean that it would need a variance for height. So the third one was encouraging redesigning the roofline in keeping with the marine character. The fourth recommendation was recommending the soft armoring along the seawalk, which they have said that they can do, and they can revise the landscape plan. And the fifth one is to encourage revisiting the building color and explore ways to incorporate color on the ocean side. Now, this wasn't discussed. So there we go.
Okay, thanks. I see Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Looks great. I think that the sidewalk color, more yellow would be nice. My couple questions, I'll pose them at the same time because they're categorically the same. But the bus stop, what happens to the bus stop during construction? And then my second question, I'll just say real quickly, with the stairs going down, are they going to have signage so that people understand that it's public access to get down to the beach?
Staff for those.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We haven't spoken about signage, but I think that would be a great addition to add to a condition of the development permit, and to let them know that it is public. In terms of the bus stop, we need to talk with BC Transit. They have a generic bus stop that would probably go in place of the bus stop that's there right now, but we have to understand what the process is around removing the one that's there right now.
Okay, around the council table, I'm hearing general comfort with moving forward with this, but we're going to have to do some work on, I think, crafting what conditions, I guess, or comments we want to integrate into this. And none of them sound very onerous. They're pretty simple requests. Councillor DeAndrade, I see first. Your hand's up.
Oh. Sorry, Mayor. Oh, I was just saying generally, I appreciate the ADP recommendations. I think the color is it's very important. So I know the planner, she has some responses. So yeah, and one of them is already completed, number 1, right?
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. So that's okay. That's a good one. So number 1, should we put that in as the motion, or it's already done? We don't need to worry about it.
Already.
Should we just put it on the record?
We can put it on the record.
Okay. I think it's, it's probably good to put on the record that, Councillor Cole, I saw your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor White. What I basically, approve the recommendation and that it includes the recommendations that the ADP made, but what I would also like is the developer or the contractor to provide a plan on how they're going to deal with the actual construction process, parking for construction crew, parking for construction vehicles, because it is a bottleneck intersection. And suddenly, if 30 construction workers show up and park on the main street for the day, we're going to have a riot with the businesses. So I would just like to know how they plan on addressing their traffic during construction.
I mean, just knowing our bylaw department, this is always something that town staff tends to sort out with whenever construction needs to happen. I mean, one recent example was concerns about Eagle Crest Heights, and we learned that our bylaw enforcement staff was up there constantly working on and helping and trying to identify solutions, and it wasn't really an issue because they were there making sure. So I think staff does tend to put resources into this without us needing to.
Through you, Mr.
direct
Mayor,
it.
if I may.
Yeah.
Typically, in a site like that, we're going to work on a development permit, on the development agreement, and in that also includes them submitting a construction management plan to address those questions: where they're going to park, where they're delivering materials. Then we issue road use permits as well, with further conditions as necessary. So there's a system in place for that as part of the building permit.
Okay, thanks. I think that satisfies the concern. Councillor Lumley, do you want to? Okay, I'm looking for somebody to. Okay.
Yeah, I do have a question.
Okay.
I'm going to ask the mayor, are you just going to run through these points and we're going to, because the couple of them.
I don't think we'll vote on, anybody can put forward a motion right now to, which would be.
Mine was a color palette.
I'm
So, anyway, that's, the other ones, as much as I appreciate the ADP, the busyness and stuff, I don't know, that's pretty hard to define.
Yeah.
So, but I'm
completely
pretty,
agree. I don't think we can really put forward number 2. I'm looking at our corporate officers.
If you wish to make that list, I would suggest option 2, which provides the opportunity then to state the changes you'd like to see, and it has A, B, and you can state which ones you wish to incorporate.
Yeah, it just means looking at some different, yeah, be authorized, yes. So we're looking at option 2 is the Form and Character Development Permit 2023-33 for 458 Marine Drive be authorized subject to the following changes. 1, secure the stairs from Marine Drive to the Seawalk for public access. That one, I think, is a pretty straightforward one. I don't know about encouraging and recommending things, if we're kind of beyond that now. But the colors, I think we want something strong on the colors, not encourage. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of interest from council. We don't need more gray. I completely agree. It's
Through you, Mr. Mayor, how
Go ahead.
about revise the color palette for brighter colors?
yeah. Okay. Number 2 would be revise the color palette for brighter colors.
Mayor?
Yeah, Councillor DeAndretti.
I understand by the planner conversation with the developer that the soft armoring along the seawalk he is willing to do. So I believe this could be also the condition. And I would
Would,
like to
sorry,
know-
I just want to get to that. Thank you, Councillor Nadrati, but I want to make sure we capture that. Would it be, would we install the soft armoring, or is that a verb that works?
Then I let the planner speak.
Yeah, we're looking to them here, Councillor D'Andrade. I know you're not in the room, it's hard, but they're just talking about what the right word might be.
So we've got soften the armoring along the seawalk, because hard armoring is one thing and soft armoring is another.
Okay,
Or
soften,
install.
oh, right, yeah, okay, I understand now, yeah, soften the armoring along the seawalk would be our third condition here. And go ahead, Councillor D'Andrade, you had another one?
I think I would like to understand, perhaps from Councillor Crowe, what is encourage redesigning the roof line in keeping with the marine character? I'm interested, but I'm not visually understanding. So if you can speak how the ADP dealt with that.
Yeah, thanks for suggesting we explore that. I'm not so sure about this one either, because I mean, we already asked them to change the roof extensively, and I don't know, I mean, reading the ADP comments, there were clearly some members who preferred the former version, which I appreciate, a former councillor on the ADP recognized, no, this is what council actually asked them to do. So I appreciate they did that. There's a bit of a conflict there on the ADP, which is good. It's good that there are different opinions there, but I'll let Councillor Kroll elaborate.
Thank you, Mayor White. What they ostensibly did was just slice the peak off the roofs to, bring it into compliance with the height restrictions. What the ADP suggested was, we realize what you've done, but could you not make it, some sort of architectural marine detailing, like a widow's walk or a clear story window that would be more in keeping with that dreaded word, seaside village character. So it was a suggestion from the ADP that, the peak roofs worked, but it put them into a variant situation. So to get out of that, they went with the flattened, but they could still add some detailing to that flattened roof to make it a little more interesting. And that was the suggestion from the ADP.
Yeah, and our planning staff already reported back on what those conversations were like. Could you just please remind me what the developer came back with when that was suggested? Yeah.
So through you. So we did have a conversation about fulfilling the peaked roof, and they felt that the half peak, I'm not sure if that's the right wording, does pull the building down, and they were more than happy to go with a peaked roof if that was something that was allowed. What we Leslie Ann and I have been discussing is that you can do a variance through the development permit as long as it's meeting the development permit guidelines. So if the peaked roof is something that council would prefer to see rather than the cut roof peak, then we can put that into the conditions of the development permit, and that can be changed.
Okay, but we would need to make that direction now. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not seeing like a consensus. I'm not feeling anybody really pushing for it here. Nobody's putting their hand up. So I think we've got, I'll just check the way we worded it here. 3 changes, is that right? Yeah. Does anyone need them read out, the 3 changes we have? There was soften the armoring, there was about the color of the building and about the steps. Yeah. Okay. Moved by Councillor Lumley, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion of the motion? Councillor D'Andrade, your hand is still up, but
Oh,
I think
sorry.
that might just be residual, yeah. Okay, all those in favor of the motion? The motion carries. Maybe not covered yet, looking to staff.
We just have another motion for the flood exemption.
Right, yeah. And moved by Councillor Lumley, seconded by Councillor Kroll. Any discussion of this? Thanks for addressing that earlier, Councillor DeAndretti. Do you have anything to add to what you said earlier? I appreciate you brought it up earlier.
I have a question regarding, because I understand the flood exemption. But what I don't understand why this is not a variance, because it breaches the rear setback, right, the waterfront setback, which is the view protection, which is a zoning. So I just don't understand why the variance is omitted here. We just talk about flood exemption. Because even the flood exemption breaches the zoning.
Okay, I'll look to our planning staff.
So the flood plain regulations in the zoning bylaw speak to a 15-meter setback, and that supersedes the setback in the view protection area. The Local Government Act doesn't allow us to vary a floodplain, so we have to go through a flood exemption.
Any more discussion of the motion? All those in favor? That motion carries. And I think we've got this one covered now. It's as other councillors have mentioned, this is really great to see the developer listen to concerns, and there were a lot of concerns from the community too. I'll add that were addressed here. So I think I'm hoping the neighbors are appreciative, and hoping to see that lot vastly improved soon. And now we have council reports. I see we're 5 minutes to 9. And we also have a motion to close for an in-camera agenda. Councillor Kroll?
A motion to extend to 9:30?
To 9:30, okay. That includes in-camera, yeah. Okay, seconded by Councillor Lumley. I'm confident we can pull this off because he's the one most likely to vote no. It's always a risk to extend too far because then you might get a no vote and then you don't get anything. Well, no, everybody has to leave, sorry. So all those in favor of the motion? Yeah, that's unanimous. It needs to be unanimous, so. Okay, question about the reports, Councillor Lumley?
To the mayor, only because you've nominated me to go to the BC Ferries.
Did I?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. You asked me to go. I went to the TV thing, and then you asked me to go to the ferry. I don't know if are you gonna go to that then? Like, because I saw in your report your advocacy, and then on one of the things is that when you met with them, I think it was you and David, the second thing was culture and safety. Does that have anything to do with the Sunshine Coast only, or is that that wasn't as a result of prior? You remember when they had the dust up and then they had to go Zoom? Is that what that is, culture and safety, or no?
No.
Okay.
No, I think that's more about engagement. I think that was largely about the workforce and ensuring there's safety for the workforce and for passengers on the actual operations and in culture of the organization. Yeah, that's what they're trying to address. But that was a really good meeting. It's as Director Stamford noted, that people to get to those kind of high executive positions have great personal skills. They often strike you as really good people, and the CEO definitely struck me that way. He's a longtime resident of the North Shore and has a lot of. Do we have technical difficulties going on here? Okay, I just see it yeah. Okay. Interpreting looks across the room here. I don't think our in-camera items are that long, but I just want to give an opportunity because we did just, as I mentioned in my report, we did just go through these conferences, and Some councillors are fresh from the Lower Mainland Local Government Association. We usually don't do spoken reports, and I know Cale's been super busy finishing his grade 12 year, so hasn't managed to get a written report in from AVICC, but I'd like to give him, I did make mention of that in my report, so I'd like to give Cale the opportunity to speak on that experience.
Yeah, well, thank you. It was just an amazing opportunity to be a part of, like, in the combination of it, like the first day while we were in Victoria, getting to meet with the Minister of Transportation, Premier Special Advisor on Youth, BC Greens leader, and just be in the legislature, like, that alone was an incredible opportunity. And then being at the convention itself and getting to meet so many people, it was really great to be a part of. Like, it's struggling to find the words right now, but it was really cool just to get to see all these different people working in their communities and see them all get together and talk. And because, like, as Silas Mayor White mentioned in the report about the signatures, so that was, they had like a sheet where you had to get like the signature of like one person, so like lived like, what was it, 200 kilometers away or something like that, or like first term or something like that. But then they had the student representative one, and I think I was, or there might have been another student representative there who didn't get the chance to see. So, but then there's like many more people who all wanted that signature, so got to just have all these little interactions with people and just get to meet all sorts of different people. So it was really cool. Yeah.
Like I said in my written report, there were just crowds around Cale the entire time, and I do think Cale, I think your speech was definitely one of the highlights for a lot of people. I heard, as I mentioned, Director Toth mentioned that at the SCRD, and I think people, all the attendees from all over the region felt that way. So it was great work.
Yeah, it was good to highlight just the success of having a program like this on the coast. Like, it's always been something that I've been surprised about, like going out there, and also my role as like a student trustee, going out into other hearing about how it goes in other communities and how they don't actually have opportunities like this. So it's really great that we have this, and I hope that other communities can take inspiration from it, because like it is so beneficial to just have youth be involved in just different levels, and for different communities it'll be a different solution that works for each community, but it's great to have those opportunities available. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Cale. And then we also had the Lower Mainland Local Government Association meeting just days ago, and I don't expect councillors had a chance to submit written reports about that, so I'll go to Councillor Kroll if he wants to reflect on that experience.
Actually, what I wanted to reflect on is, while you were traveling back from AVICC, I attended the capstone project at the market. And it was really encouraging, first of all, to see the work that the students in this community were doing, but it was also good to see Erin, our alternate student on council. She was doing her presentation on marine search and rescue. Cale was there doing his project on advocating for students in and their voice in local government. And I would encourage Cale to forward the photograph he has of him speaking at AVICC to the communications officer, so it can be included in our student student on council webpage, because it's a great photograph, Cale in front of this massive room of people. So kudos to our students.
Thanks. I have some video of it too, not the whole thing, but yeah. Maybe we can include that. Okay. I see no other volunteers. We can fit things into written reports in the future as well. And we're on to a motion to close. Does anyone want to make that? Councillor Kroll, this is a motion to close the meeting in accordance with sections 91A, J, and K of the Community Charter, and those are listed. Those three provisions are listed in our agenda. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor of the motion? The motion to close carries. Thank you.